In our last lecture, we were discussing about selection of employees. We select employees from the available people and then socialize them, then motivate them and train them to become effective for our organizations. In today's discussion, we are going to have further analysis on this, and so training of employees we are going to emphasize in today's lecture. Let us see the training, what training is all about, but before I go to discuss various aspects of training, first I will make you familiarize with some of the basic terms about training and development. Training and development, the first aspect of training and development is the information that we would like to give to our employees. It is a unit of awareness about a thing. So, training could be about technical training, it could be about attitudinal training, it could be about your organization, it could be about a technology, it could be about a concept, or it could be about perhaps any other kind of awareness. So, information becomes the first aspect of training. Then information and knowledge. It is gleaned by organization information. It evolves through the knowledge and by the learners gaining context, perspective and scope about information. And as you know that data, information, knowledge, these are talking about the same phenomenon, but when it becomes your knowledge, it is a, you can say in a way, information that is processed and that becomes yours. So, once we give training, we will expect that the knowledge that is given to you becomes yours, and only then that is going to actually get reflected in your performance. The third aspect, the third term which is we are going to introduce to you is the skill. Skills are applying knowledge in an effective and efficient manner to get something done. Then the task. It is typically defined as a unit of work, a set of activities needed to produce some result. Complex positions in the organization may include large number of tasks which we could refer as functions. Is it clear? We are talking about tasks now. Earlier we have discussed about the knowledge, information, knowledge, tasks, then comes your job. Job is a collection of tasks and responsibilities that an employee is responsible to actually carry out, to conduct, and they may have certain titles. For example, someone is doing the computer operator's job, someone is doing a professor's, teacher's job. So, some kind of a title we will find with a particular job. Then comes the role. A role is a set of responsibilities or expected results associated with a job. So, a job usually will involve number of roles that you are going to actually play or you are going to perform number of subtasks, we can say subsections. Okay. So, number of roles which we can say you are going to play in performing that particular task. So, learning. So, this all relates to the process of learning that we are going to impart to you as the as a part of training. So, what learning is all about? Can we define learning? All of us learn every day. Learning is viewed as enhancing one's knowledge, understanding or skills. Well, authors have defined learning as cumulative experience, cumulative knowledge also. Many books have defined learning in that sense. And as we know that ever since we have started learning, our learning is a continuous learning in some sense, and simply put, continuous learning is the ability to learn to learn. Isn't that interesting? That means every day we learn, and the capacity to learn to learn. Okay? And when we are talking about training, we are trying to actually capitalize on this aspect, that create a condition where people would like to learn and then internalize those aspects that we are trying to expose them to at that particular time. So the issue is, after discussing so much, perhaps you all must be wondering why ma'am is talking about all these basic concepts. What's the need of talking about it? Because all these will constitute the process of learning, training and development. And therefore, we have to answer a question, why training is needed. Can't you do without training? Perhaps you may say, yes, I can do without training, but I have a reason. And in fact, the management practitioners have a reason to invest so much money in the training and development programs. Every organization has a budget, and training and development budget is there. There must be a reason why are they doing that. So, training and development can be initiated to address performance gap, learning needed to meet the performance standards for a current task or job. So, the performance gap may be there, and that could be addressed through a training program. Is it? So, we are trying to answer that question, why do we need training, and why do we need to have a training department, why do we need to invest in training? Because there are some reasons, and in fact, very valid reasons. There is a growth gap. Learning is needed to achieve the career goals, and training is required for that. If you are working on a particular level, in your organization, if you are given some new training, new exposure, your career opportunities also brighten, and you become more useful to the organization, and that is why organization would like to send you for training. That is why. Then the opportunity gaps. Learning is also needed to qualify for an identified new job or role. With the advent of globalization, so much of industrialization, we find that newer and newer types of jobs are coming. And if you are given training, perhaps you could achieve success in that particular new role. So, learning is needed for any kind of a new opportunity that you might get, and that is why training. So, rapid rate of technological and social change in society has made it necessary for the managers so that they can cope up with these developments, as I discussed just now. And then the introduction of automation, intense market competition from foreign countries, all countries, and the growth of new perhaps markets in developing countries, enlarged participation of labor in management, a greater interest by the public and government in the action of business have all led to the need for development of managerial personnel, or I would add here personnel at any level. So, training could be given at any level. Managerial personnel I am emphasizing because managers actually have to manage the organization. Also, increased recognition by the organization of the social and public responsibilities of management has made it necessary for the managers to have training. The increased size and complexity of the most of the managers, they also require training, because new systems are developing, new complex technologies are coming up. So, unless you train people, people may not be perhaps giving you the performance up to your expectation. So, we need training. Now, older people in the organization, they are special groups, they need refresher training to enable them to keep abreast about the new methods, techniques and use of sophisticated tools and equipment. Here I am reminded of a study that I had conducted, when the computers were introduced in our offices, reservation offices, banks and also industries. That was about say 15 years, 20 years ago. At that time I was conducting a study on this resistance to change, and basically taking the managers and the senior employees, those who had long experience. See, today if we look at these organizations, we can't think of that how can banks run without computers, or how can reservation be done without computers. But at that time there used to be great resistance, and it was only through the process of training and development we have been able to achieve this success, and today that has certainly made an impact on the efficiency of these organizations. So, the objectives of training are to bridge the gap between existing performance ability and desired performance. We have seen in our introduction that every organization and every manager would like that there should be the best performance, so that organization can really achieve competitive advantage. Unless we invest in training and development, we cannot achieve these results. So, the major objective of training and development is to achieve this gap in the existing ability and the desired performance. Then we also have to see that for this, in this process we have to impart new entrants with basic knowledge and skills as they need for an intelligent performance of a defined task. So, when anyone joins an organization, see, they may be graduates, they may be say 10 pointers, they may be very good in studies, but then organization needs to train them about a specific task, because they have done their studies, they are very brilliant, they are very good, very smart, yet they need to know what is the exact performance requirement, and that is why training is required. Training is the objective of training also is to assist employees to function more effectively in their present positions by exposing them to latest concepts, information, technologies and developing the skills they will need for their future roles. Because things are changing. An organization, what is there today, tomorrow there may be a different technology, different set of requirements and different type of competition. So, they have to be ready for accepting any kind of future roles that may be coming in. So for that we need to have training. Another objective is to build the second line of competent officers and prepare them to occupy more responsible positions. So, if we have the officers and they are very good, we have to prepare also the second line, so that whenever like if their responsibilities have to be shared, the next level people can share. Either they quit or they would like to devote more time on the conceptual level, on policy making level, perhaps the responsibility has to be shared. So, in any situation a second line has to be developed, and that is why training may be required. Then training objective, one of the objectives of training is also to broaden the minds of managers by providing them with the opportunities for interchange of experiences within and outside, with a view to correct the narrowness of their outlook that may arise sometimes because of over specialization. Here, before I take up the further on the purpose of training, I would like to share with you an interesting idea. Maybe some of you have not heard that the training programs have become so important for some organizations that if you have to actually go in for the next cadre appraisal, then they will ask you, have you undergone any training during the past 1 year or so. This is one thing. The second thing I would also like to share with you is that at the lowest level the training programs may be more technical in nature, but as you grow, you come to the middle level or to the higher level. At the middle level the training programs are technical and the interpersonal may be nature, and at the highest level they may be interpersonal and conceptual at the policy making level, that kind. But in addition to this, there are training programs which are given on general awareness and general development of people. Something interesting, someone gave me to understand that in one of the public sector organizations there was a training program about dream analysis. Well, what it has got to do with the engineering production? But yes, at that level even such programs are given. We do give programs on the interpersonal relationships and of course the technology on the one side, computers on the other, but also we have the training programs on so many aspects, because we have realized that after all the training and development finally will give us results for the organization. From here we come to the purpose of training. See, there may be certain overlaps also in certain points which I have tried to put here, but then for making you understand it better, I have put it in under certain captions. So, the purpose of training is to increase quality and productivity, to help the company fulfill the future personal needs, to improve organizational climate, to improve health and safety of personnel, to address personal growth and prevent obsolescence, to develop innovativeness and creativity, to improve interpersonal communication, leadership and teamwork. So, we have seen that in order to achieve performance, we have to enhance creativity, we have to enhance their enthusiasm, we have to enhance their awareness. So, in addition to certain technical skills. So, reasons for training, if we are talking about reasons for training, which we have already discussed a little bit in the beginning of this lecture, but let me say it again. For improvement in performance, to benchmark the status of improvement. If you want, are you noting down some of these issues? Maybe you can. For overall professional development, succession planning to help the employees to be eligible for planned change in the role. Role, or we can say roles, one could play a number of roles at the same time. So, as I was discussing sometimes that we play number of roles at the place of work, sometimes just one role that we are going to play, but whatever we are doing, so for that we have to have some kind of a planning. Also, to pilot or test the operation of new performance strategies or performance management systems, we can say. So, we need training for so many reasons. So, reasons for training further, if I go on to say, we train about specific topics, give training about specific topics such as communications, computer skills, customer service, diversity and so on. In fact, some of these are already discussed a short while ago. Also, this list is much longer than perhaps you thought it to be. The other aspects of training are the ethics. We are talking about ethics in a big way these days, and the corporate social responsibility and ethics. These are the discussions that also we are going to have in this course in some of the lectures. So, ethics become extremely important, human relations become very important, quality initiatives become important, and then safety at the place of work, and a new concept that has been added as the sexual harassment, because nowadays we have studied diversity in our course, and one important consideration of this diversity is the issue of gender or the gendering practices in organizations. And we have devoted some time also understanding that when women enter the organizations, then what happens. This is a phenomenon we can't stop, and in the years to come perhaps you are going to have more and more number of women working. At the same time, we find that there are issues like sexual harassment at the place of work. So, when we are talking about training issues and training and development, this also is part of our training program. In addition to this, we can go on and on. We have training program on, say, the issues like the drug abuse and things like that, whatever are the current issues, because after all people come from the same environment, and when they are coming to your place, for working, and you find that their performance gets affected because of certain habits or certain attitudes. There is need for making them aware and hence training. See, one of the studies that we were conducting, we have found that drug abuse relates to violence, and this violence goes to family, not only family, but at the place of work also. So, because of drug abuse, there are so many behavioral consequences because of which the organization suffers. And so, if we can really give that kind of a training and education to people, so that they do not indulge into some such things, or if they have unfortunately gone into that, then perhaps de-addiction. So, organizations these days also make some few such efforts, and then the safety and health issues also sometimes form the part of the training programs. So, the advantages of training, whatever, see the list I am giving you, this is not the exhaustive list, because there are so many issues which need to be considered for training. After all, we would like to have a very healthy system with very good quality of life at the place of work to achieve the performance, and also people being very happy. All these we have to see if we need to achieve this, and do we really need to impart any training. For some people, in some situations you do not need to give training, but others may like to have training. Younger generation need different kind of a training, and the older people need some different kind of a treatment. So, as we are seeing that training also has to be designed according to the requirement and the need of the hour, need of society. So, advantages of training, certainly it gives better satisfaction to people. So, increased job satisfaction and morale among employees. So, they have greater enthusiasm to work, and they are happier, greater spirit to work. There is increased employee motivation. Work motivation actually is the central theme for us when we are talking about really achieving performance, profits, and the better competitive advantage. Work motivation is a central theme, and through training we can increase employee motivation too. Increased efficiency. Yeah, you had some question, how motivation could be improved. In our section on motivation, perhaps we are going to throw more light on various aspects of motivation, but for now you should understand that if you are trying to create such conditions where people will feel satisfied, they will have some intrinsic motivation. But we will discuss about motivation later in the later section. So, the increased capacity to adopt new technologies and methods. These days, when the industries are growing, every day we find new technologies coming in, and if we are not planning our organizations with proper training designs, we may be lagging behind, because the increased capacity to adopt to new technologies and methods, that will come only when you give them training. They will have greater confidence, and so the greater perhaps adoption of the new technologies. So, training becomes so important in that sense, and we can't say that because I have to invest in training and people don't know anything and so I can't hire people. You can hire good people and give them training and make them actually suitable for your job. And you can also give training to your existing employees to adopt to new technologies. Now, innovation, you know that today with strategic management we are also emphasizing on the innovation in a big way. In fact, everyone has some creativity, some ideas, some innovation, and through training programs we can actually give them this opportunity for developing strategies and products. So, innovation, in fact, we can capitalize on this particular talent, we can do that. Turnover, you must have heard about turnover of money. Here the turnover word is not used for the turnover of money or the money coming and going. It is about the employees turnover. So, you understand the meaning of reduced employee turnover. That means the more number of people you can retain in your organization. I am getting that. So, the employees turnover is how many people came to your organization and how many perhaps did not continue or quit. Okay. So, the attrition rate, that is one of the challenging issues again for the modern management system. And we are finding with the globalization attrition rate actually is increasing. So, people will come to this organization and quit and go to another one. And if you really want to retain people in your organization, it is possible that you can train them and retain them in your organization for a much longer time. So, through training programs, it may be possible that you can reduce the employees turnover. So, is it clear to you the word employees turnover that we are using here? Okay, it is different than the turnover in terms of the money or any other issue. Okay. And so, the reduced employee turnover becomes an important aspect of the functioning of an organization, because if you hire a person and if the person quits, it is a big expenditure for you as a management person, because you have hired, then you have socialized the person, then he starts working, you have invested some time and some money with that person and then he quits. He takes advantage of the experience here and the learning here and then he goes. So, it is not a good business. The good business is if you can retain people in your organization. So, we can use training programs and giving them the training and development opportunities through training, and so the reduced employee turnover. Is the term clear to you? Okay. Enhanced company image, that is conducting ethics training. So, when I gave you the example of say training programs in ethics or training program on health or safety issues or training program on dream analysis or interpersonal communication and transactional analysis. Another aspect is also there. These days companies, as we have discussed earlier in this course, are not functioning within themselves, but they have to survive in an environment, and so the company image becomes extremely important. And through training programs of this kind, you can not only develop your own employees, but your company image also actually is getting a lot of I should say what better deal, in the sense people do talk about, oh, such and such company, people know this and this and this, and they get training program on some such issues. So, that is a great great thing for the company, people talk about it. Okay. So, that actually gets reflected into the overall functioning of your organization. Risk management. Risk management may have so many things. Risk management may be at any situation, and we can have risk management training. Also we can have the training about sexual harassment, I have already talked about it, and diversity training. Risk management examples, of course, I should have better examples here. Training about harassment is not really the right example that I am showing you. Risk management is about, I think one sentence is left here. About the risk management training, we are talking about risk at any wherever you are working, you are functioning. If there is any kind of accident takes place or there is a natural disaster, then the risk management comes into picture. So, actually risk management training means so many things. Here the caption perhaps has to explain more aspects of risk management. Let me explain that. So, we have in every situation there may be a risk. There may be a man-made risk, or there may be a natural disaster risk, or sometimes sometimes we have to also face with a risk which we have never been exposed to. Okay, it may be any kind of accidental risk or something of that kind. So, we have to make aware people about risk management and also any kind of a disaster that might take place. So, we have to look into that. Human resource development, which basically when we are giving training, we are basically trying to actually do human resource development, which we in short we call HRD. So, training is part of human resource development. It is defined as an organized learning experience conducted in a definite time period to increase the possibility of improving job performance and growth. So, organized here means it is conducted in a systematic way. See, with experience all of us can have some exposure, and there is some kind of a training or human resource development is going on. But we when we say training and HRD sessions that we are doing, here we are trying to say it is an organized and very consciously designed and conducted in a systematic way. That is what we are trying to say. So, HRD is that long term kind of a human resource development, where we can give number of sessions of training on various issues. HRD programs are divided into 3 main categories. So, the training is the first part of it, which we are discussing. Then we have the issue of development, and then the issue of education. So, in fact, all these 3 are working I think simultaneously. It is so difficult to really break that, okay, here training ends and here development begins and education begins or something of that kind, because human mind is the same. Okay, so, within this all this is going on, but for the purpose of making you understand, we are trying to talk about these concepts. Okay, is it clear? So, let us move on. That training, development and education. Here I am trying to present to you that training is defined as learning that is provided in order to improve performance on the present work, it facilitates change, it is acquisition of technology which permits employees to perform their present job to certain standards. It can be interpreted as an activity when an expert and a learner, they work together to effectively transfer information from the expert to the learner. So, there is a transfer of learning going on from the expert to the learner, and of course, within the learner also there is a transfer of learning going on. So, I'll talk about that later, or let me just give you an idea that when we are trying to give you some learning, and if two similar materials we are doing, there may be a positive transfer of learning and sometimes there may be a negative transfer of learning, that is within an individual. But here which is the basically the process of learning, but here we are talking about an expert and the learner, okay, that there is a transfer of learning going on. Say the teacher is teaching, okay, some transfer of learning is going on, that is the idea here. So, Goldstein has defined training processes as the systematic acquisition of attitudes, concepts and knowledge, roles or skills that result in improved performance at work. Education, now I am just trying to make little distinction. Education is a training that in which people do different jobs. It is often given to people who have been identified as being, say, promotable or being considered for a new job, either lateral or upward, or to increase their potential. So, education, training. Unlike training, education can only be evaluated when the learner moves on to their future jobs or tasks. Development is training that people acquire in new horizons, technologies and viewpoints. It enables leaders to guide their organizations on to new expectations by being proactive rather than reactive. You understand the word proactive and reactive? We do talk about that, in many sense, in many situations. Proactive before the event has actually occurred, okay, proactive, okay, and reactive is when the event has occurred, then the reactive, okay, and I am sure you know about it, okay. So, these words we use many a times to explain certain phenomenon in management thinking, proactive and reactive. So, when we are talking about training program, so here we are using these terms. It also enables workers to create better products, faster services and more competitive organizations, which is an objective of the whole management studies perhaps program. It is learning for growth of the individual, but not related to specific present or future job. All right. So, development involves changes in the organism. Those are systematic, organized and successive and are thought to serve an adaptive function, and therefore, development is always progressive. Development is a broad, ongoing, multifaceted set of activities. Training activities are among them. To bring someone or an organization up to another threshold of performance. It includes variety of methods, that is enriching about a role, training in a wide variety of areas, on ongoing training on the job, coaching, mentoring, and forms and sets of development. It is also lifelong goal and experience. So, this brings about change. Change refers to alterations that occur over time in learners' internal cognitive or affective characteristics, and change may be quantitative or qualitative and encompassing both regression and progression. So, the strategic value of training and development refers to speed strategy. It is designed to offer customer a competitive value in terms of reduced time for product of services. A training practice that serves this function emphasizes teamwork among employees and method of streamlined production designed to reduce the time it takes to meet a customer's need. Strategic value of training and development also refers to innovation strategy. It is used to develop products or services that differ from the competition. Its primary business objective is to offer something new and different. The focus of training in this context is on developing new products, services, and technologies. So, the strategic value of training and development both are quality enhancement strategy, which is designed to provide value by offering a product or service of higher quality than offered by their competitors. So, the employees are trained to provide consistently high levels of service quality with no defects. Cost reduction is yet another strategy to gain a competitive advantage by being a low cost provider of service, and organizations practicing this training strategy invest resources in enhancing the skills of their employees. So, in reality, most organizations adopt mix of competitive business strategies. Training and development activities are directed to meet the multiple objectives. For example, let us see the fast food industry. In fast food industry, you have so many multiple objectives that the industry is meeting. For example, providing say health, safety, good product, okay, utilizing the agriculture produce, okay, and of course the industry, the manufacturing. So many objectives are there. So that there is a social objective, there is a business objective. So there is a developmental objective. So there are number of objectives. Greatest advances and the emphasis in training technologies occur in those organizations that most highly value their human resources to sustain a competitive advantage. So, from here we come to the end of the about training program strategies, and this has given us an idea that training programs could be designed in many ways. And in the training program, the most important person who is who has to be considered in this process is the trainer. Who is the trainer and what are the characteristics of a trainer? So, if we have the model of training program, what we were discussing earlier in the earlier lecture, is that the trainer has to be the one who is really good in giving training programs. The trainee has to be the one who is really motivated to learn and know about the things, and the method of training could be anything, like you can do it through the lectures, you can do it through using a video film, you can do it through a web based course, you can do it through a correspondence course, you can do it with role playing. So, you can use or you can take them to for a sightseeing or any other visits to other places, or you can invite speakers. So, there are many methods of training programs that we could actually work on. So, training program is many things at the same time, and this is a responsibility of the organization to achieve the competitive advantage. At this point, let me talk to you about the training program that we might give for changing the work culture. For example, we are talking about empowering leadership style. It is so difficult to give the training in just one session, but for such a training and development we can create the total organizational climate, which might, and then a small sessions of training programs to develop an empowering work culture situation, which is of course coming in a big way. And some of the studies that we have found that most of the organizations, in fact successful organizations, are trying to achieve this for their better performance. So, we are talking about training programs for the individual performance, as we have talked about, okay, making people aware about the training programs, but also we are talking about the organizational performance, because the ultimate result that we have to achieve is to see that our organization survives, sustains, grows, develops and achieves competitive advantage. And for that, training program has to be an ongoing activity in an organization. And then if you see, most of the large corporations, they have a very well developed HRD department, and I am told that good about say 8% perhaps sometimes, or ranging between 2% to 8% of their budget is being kept for the HRD programs. And when we are looking at some of the this is a data that I have received from some of the HRD managers working in some public sector organizations. So, this may range depending on different organizations. So, I was just discussing with some HRD managers, they have given me this data. Also in the training program, they have the outside experts sometime, they have the internal experts, and they have sometimes some other, say, the project management. So, they have small projects, they can give training through projects. So, giving training actually becomes an important exercise. One has to design training programs for different organizations. One of the surveys that we conducted also, with various banks, and we found that the some of the multinational banks, they are giving lot of training to their employees. They are investing, I should say, investing lot of money for training of their employees at the time of induction and also later time. So, training is becoming an important aspect of total business management strategy now, because we have all realized that unless human resources are well trained, we cannot really achieve the competitive advantage.